Ivy and Bean, Take the Case. Book 10 by Annie Barrows and Sophie Blackhall. Black and white and tough all over. Bean wasn't allowed to watch television or music videos. Bean's mom said she could watch 2 movies a week, but they had to be movies where everyone was good. There couldn't be any bad words. There couldn't be any mean people. There couldn't be anyone smoking a cigarette or wearing tiny clothes. There were only about 10 movies that followed all these rules. Luckily, Bean liked all 10 of them. She watched them over and over. Bean's mom said 10 movies were plenty. She said kids Bean's age should be using their imaginations instead of watching TV. She said fresh air was more important than movies. And then what did she do? She made Bean watch a movie. It was her favorite movie, she said. Everyone should see it at least once, she said. The movie was called 7 Falls, but it wasn't about waterfalls or even the leaf-falling kind of fall, which is what Bean had guessed. It was about a guy named Al 7. Boy, was he tough. He was so tough, he talked without moving his lips, and some of it was bad words. He was also kind of mean. Everyone in the movie was kind of mean. Plus, they all smoked cigarettes. They didn't wear tiny clothes, but that was the only rule they didn't break. "I can't believe you're letting me watch this," said Bean. 7 Falls is a classic, said Bean's mom. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. "Don't be a stooge," said Al 7 to another movie guy. That was pretty mean, but Bean pretended not to notice, because this was one of the greatest movies ever made. Al 7 was also in black and white, but Bean knew she was supposed to imagine he was in color. "What is it about dames?" asked Al 7, walking slowly down a rainy street. "They break your heart, I guess," he answered himself. That was the end. Bean's mom let out a big, happy sigh. "Wasn't that amazing? Did you get it?" "Get what?" Bean wasn't sure, but she nodded. "I'm going to be just like Al 7 when I grow up." Her mother raised one eyebrow. "You'd better not be." But then again, why wait, thought Bean. She could start being like Al 7 now. She slumped over and put her feet on the coffee table. "What do you say we watch it again, pal?" she said. Her mom raised both eyebrows. "What I say is don't call me pal and take your feet off the table." That hadn't worked. Bean took her feet off the table. "Dames," she said sadly, "they break your heart." Her mom's eyebrows were almost inside her hair. "Oh dear," she said. It took Bean a long time to go to sleep that night. She couldn't stop thinking about Al 7 and his black and white world. It didn't seem like the real world, the world on Pancake Court that Bean lived in. People in Al 7's world were tough, and they didn't laugh very much. They didn't do normal stuff like go to school and the grocery store. They walked down alleys and wore hats. But the most unnormal thing about Al 7's world was the mysteries. There were mysteries all over the place. Bean untwisted her pajamas and thought about that. A mystery was a question you couldn't find the answer to. In Al 7's world, the mysteries were things like who took Hester's jewels, or where was Sammy La Barba on the night of May 12th? Bean didn't have any jewels, and she sure as heck didn't know anyone named Sammy La Barba. But there were plenty of questions that she didn't have answers to. Millions of them. For instance, who thought of money? Not even grown-ups knew the answer to that question. But Bean had other questions too, like, what's inside the cement thing in the front yard? What's behind the Tang's fence, and why do they lock it up? And what's the matter with the mailman? When she asked these questions, her parents usually said something like, "It's none of your business." That meant that there was an answer, but they didn't want her to know it. Bean smiled toughly at her dark ceiling. They didn't want her to know things. Just like Sammy La Barba didn't want Al 7 to know where he was on the night of May 12th. But Al 7 had figured it out, because he was a private investigator. Private investigators got to the bottom of mysteries. They solved them. They snuck around. They spied. They asked the hard questions. They sat in their cars and rubbed their faces until they came up with the answers. Then they walked down alleys in the rain. That's what Bean was going to do, first thing tomorrow morning. None of your business, she muttered. Huh. Private investigator. Al 7 had a cool office with his name on the door. Bean could do that, easy peasy. She began with the desk. Bean had a good board, and she had two triangle things that were called sawhorses, even though they didn't look anything like horses. She put the sawhorses on the front lawn, and then she put the board on top of the sawhorses. Desk. The spinny chair was a little harder. Bean had to yank it up the basement stairs. Yank, yank, yank. And just when she got to the top, it fell back down most of the stairs. It was already broken, but it was more broken after it fell down the stairs. "What the heck are you doing, Bean?" called her father from the kitchen. "I'm trying to get this chair up the stairs," shouted Bean. "Do you want help?" Bean thought about that. Al 7 had a helper, a lady named Dolly. Mostly, Dolly lit Al's a cigarette, but Bean figured she would have carried a chair if Al had asked her to. "Yes, please." Her dad came down to the basement and carried the spinny chair up the stairs. He even carried it out to the front yard. "Thanks, pal," said Bean. Her dad said, "Don't call me pal. You're welcome." Bean put the chair behind the desk and sat in it. She spun around. Pretty good. But she wasn't done yet. She needed to look tough enough to solve a mystery. She needed a hat. She was pretty sure there was one upstairs in the closet of things no one wanted. She was right. On the highest shelf of things no one wanted, covered with dust, was a hat. It was sort of grayish, sort of brownish. It smelled funny. When Bean put it on, she could hardly see. It was a little dangerous walking around in that hat, but Al 7 said, "Danger makes me laugh." While Bean was climbing down from the shelf, she found something she hadn't expected. Something great. It was a telephone, an old one with 2 parts and a cord. Perfect! Al 7 was always slamming the phone down on people. Bean slammed the phone down a few times to test it. "So long, pal," she whispered. With the hat on her head and the phone under her arm, Bean went downstairs to her mom's recycling bin. Bean's mom's recycling bin was always full of important-looking papers. Papers with rubber stampings all over them. Papers with typing in 3 different colors. Papers with sticky notes. Today was a good day in the bin. Papers were spilling out the sides. Also big envelopes. And file folders. What a haul! Since she was already down on the floor, Bean took a look in her mom's wastebasket. 5,000 lipstick tissues and a plastic picture of an alligator lying on a log. Words coming out of the alligator's mouth said, "Sure, I'm working. I'm working so fast you can't see it." Bean stared at the plastic picture for a long time. Was the alligator working, or was it supposed to be funny? Did grown-ups think it was funny? If they did, why? It was a mystery, but Bean decided not a very interesting one. With her hat, her phone, and an armful of paper, Bean went outside. Bean was a good artist. She could draw nice stuff like flowers and cute bugs and dancing bagels, but she could also draw serious stuff like science pictures and pyramids. Her sign was serious. She wanted it to look like a real grown-up sign. Al 7's sign said, "Al 7, Private Investigator." Bean wanted a sign like that. She began to write in big, serious letters. Bean's last name was really long. It was so long that sometimes she mixed up the letters. Bean got another piece of paper. Bean, she wrote in big, serious letters. Good. Private. Good. Investigator. Oops. Investigator. Bean got another piece of paper. Bean. Good. Pervert. Oops. Bean got another piece of paper. Bean. Good. Oops. Bean crumpled the paper and threw it on the ground. She got another piece of paper. Bean. Good. P. Good. I. Good. Done. Phew. Bean taped her sign to the plum tree. She put her hat on her head. She put the papers and file folders on the desk. She made her eyes into slits and looked around Pancake Court. She watched Jake the teenager walk out of his house with a gigantic shopping bag. So long, pal, she muttered. She picked up the phone and slammed it down. She was tough. She was ready. She was ready for her first mystery.